The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates.
It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media.
Well, it oughta.
The Rick Jensen Show on 101.7 FM, 1150 AM, WDEL, and streaming to your smart speaker and mobile device.
I am a longtime Happy Camper client of Dan White and Associates, financial planner specializing in retirement income. So every Wednesday after the news, Dan or one of his associates calls in with some timely tips. It's Dan Simon in the Middletown office. Dan, how are you, sir?
I am well, Rick. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. So when you guys are working with folks on financial planning, you talk about a lot of different things, not just taxes and the IRS and Social Security, all sorts of things that can affect your life, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you really got to take a look at the full picture. Whether it's an upcoming expense, planning for retirement income, risk, taxes. I mean, you name it. We try to cover the whole gamut.
Well, also inflation, assumptions about inflation, real inflation right now, expectations, and also the cost of homes. So I talk about this quite a bit. The average price of a home in Delaware has gone up so substantially, it's become really almost unaffordable, not just for millennials trying to buy a home, but also folks who are looking at retirement. They want to go into maybe some assisted living. They want to go into a 55-plus community or something. That comes into the calculation too, right?
It does, and when I think about home valuations, cost these days, it's pretty interesting. I mean, if you look where we've come from, before interest rates shot up over the last 2.5 years, we were essentially living in a world where, you hate to use the word free, but I mean, you could borrow money for a 30-year mortgage at 3.25%, even under 3% at one point.
Yeah.
Which really kind of put people in the position that we're in now, where people are tied into these loans that they have against their properties, and for them to relocate is very disadvantageous because the cost of financing a new property or new purchase is significantly more expensive than what it used to be in the past. Hence I personally believe that's one of the reasons why it's such a competitive market for purchasers right now, because there's just not a whole lot of inventory, because most people that are financed at that low 3 or even high 2 rate are comfortable where they're at, and they're saying, hey, listen, this is where we're going to be. We've got money borrowed on the cheap. Maybe we want to make the home the way we want it to be as opposed to relocate at this point.
Yeah, I know, it's brutal. I used to be in the business. I had a real estate investment company for a number of years, a small number, about 7, I think. And we had flips, we had rentals. So I keep studying this, and I'm in touch with people who are in the business as well, in the real estate market. And I saw a place that it was in Newark in 2018 was about valued at about $270,000. Okay, now $400,000. It was incredible, and people were lining up to buy this place. By the way, the square footage was about a little over 1,800 for $400,000. That's unbelievable to me. But then again, I've been seeing and looking at the market for many years. It's staggering and it's disappointing as well. So when you think about home values and equity, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so when I think about values being up and the equity that homeowners have within their properties at this point, as opposed to, as I mentioned, kind of, potentially looking to relocate, a lot of people are, kind of talking more about the opportunity or possibility of making changes to their home so that it is feasible for them, whether it's 5, 10, 15, or 20 years from now, or just doing projects that they want the house to be the way they want it to be. So a couple different ways you can go about doing that and financing it, as opposed to just coming out of pocket with cash. Is to leverage either the home equity inside the value of the home, and basically, your home equity is the property's market value minus what you owe or any liens on it.
Yeah.
And what you've put down on the property. So, you kind of really have two options there. You've got a home equity loan which is essentially a second mortgage. It's just a debt that's secured by the home. And generally, most borrower or lenders rather won't allow you to borrow more than 80% of the equity that you've put into the home. And typically what you're looking at doing is receiving a lump sum of money. These are generally financed with a fixed interest rate loan of 5, 10, 15 years. And obviously the interest rate that you qualify for is really going to depend upon your credit score. So higher the credit score, the lower interest rate you can get. Mm-hmm. The only problem is rates right now are floating somewhere between 8.6 to 9% in the area that we're in between Wilmington and Philadelphia. So rates are up, but at the same time, 30-year loan, you're looking over 7% on a new mortgage if you were to relocate. And to that point, over and above that, real estate values have all obviously skyrocketed over the last couple of years in this area.
Yeah.
So that's one option if you're looking for a lump sum of funds right now, so that you're not impeding the growth of an investment portfolio or taking liquid cash out of checking your savings. But the other option is to leverage a home equity line of credit, so a little bit different than a home equity loan. And a line of credit is off of the home equity. I look at it as it's more flexible because you don't have to take the whole line of credit that you apply for, and it's kind of come as you go. So, we use the example of, you got a kid in college, you got 4 years of tuition coming up, you don't want to borrow it right now and lock in on that 8-9% fixed rate over the course of a 5 or 10 year period of time, with the assumption that maybe rates will go down in the future. Maybe they won't. We don't know. Few articles I've read recently are saying they're going to stay where they're at for a little while. Higher longer seems to be the consensus. But with the home equity line of credit, you're only paying interest on the money that you've actually borrowed. So you've got the line of credit in place, but if it's $50,000 and you're only borrowing $10,000, you're only paying interest on that $10,000 until it's paid back. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility there. Whereas if someone's looking for, a lump sum of money for a new home renovation project or whatever it might be, the fixed rate might be a better option with a home equity loan.
I know the way you guys work. People need to make their own decisions, and you provide information and knowledge. So I do know people.
I bet you do.
Yeah, I know, right? About 5 or 6. I know people. And about 5 or 6 of them who have actually been dealing with this horrible inflation that we're working with by having a home equity line of credit. And I thought, man, I mean, that gives you an idea of how bad times are right now. What's the danger of that financially?
The danger of it would be not having the funds to pay it back. Because again, I mean, if you foreclose on one of these things, you could potentially lose your home. So that would be the inherent danger. When I think about it, is if you're using one of these lines of credit for, we'll just call it living expenses or budgetary expenses, not only have expenses gone up right in front of us due to the fact that inflation was not transitory and it's been here to stay, and I don't likely see it going away. I think I saw it's up 20% over the course of the last 3 years. So expenses are up, but at the same time, the money that you're using to pay those expenses, you're also paying a higher interest rate on than just using income or cash that you have on hand. So it's really a double-edged sword when you're using it for those type of expenses just to get by. It's sad and it's kind of scary at the same time.
I was talking about the real estate market here in Delaware just a few days ago, and a listener called in and said, well, you know what a lot of folks are doing, and I don't know what the number is. He said a lot of folks are doing, and when they're older, they as opposed to moving out of their two-story home, like me. I've got a traditional, typical Wilmington, Delaware, 2,000 square foot colonial style home with a one-car garage filled with junk. And it's very, very typical. And I'd love to move into, like, say, some kind of rambling ranch. That's insane right now because easily, if you look at what the prices were 10 years ago, you're going to spend another $100,000, $150,000, maybe even $200,000, depending upon what you're looking at. And I'm just looking at houses like, I bought mine for, $205,000 not that long ago, 20 years ago, and I think it's dramatically overpriced for the market, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
That type of property is desirable for maybe a senior that doesn't want to be in a care facility but likes the benefit of having single floor living. So yeah, and there's a lot of demand for it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that thinking like in 20 years my knees might go out. I don't know, but what this caller said, Dan, is that what people are doing now is they're doing what you're talking about, but doing something different. They take out this home equity loan, and they just rehab the first floor. They don't need their dining room anymore, so they rehab that into the main bedroom and put a master bath next to that, or just keep the bathroom they have downstairs, or they knock out a wall and put a bedroom in the back of the house like that. In fact, I have a neighbor who did something like that as well. More people are doing that as opposed to downsizing because, as the caller said, why would you even do that? You've got a house that's worth $400,000. You sell it, you're going to go to another house worth $400,000. You got closing costs. You have moving costs. It's not like you're saving any money. In fact, you're spending more money. Yeah, go ahead and respond to that.
Yeah, I hear it, and we hear all sides of things. I had a conversation with someone yesterday who was going through a divorce, and they've got a lot of equity in the home, but they don't want to sell it because to go and buy something, they can't afford it. So they're talking about putting another structure on the property for one spouse to live in and the next to live in the other.
Oh no!
So it's amazing what we're hearing and seeing these days.
Now I was also talking with a friend of mine who he was pretty high up with KMPG. It's an international corporation. They do
sure.
Okay, a lot of accounting as well as they. Pardon me.
It's Big Five firm. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And he said that. What he's seeing is a lot of millennials don't even want to buy a house. They think, why would I buy a house? I have to cut a lawn. I have to, do all these things around and fix it up. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to rent. And I thought that's kind of crazy because you build equity, you have savings, and it's worth more than when you bought it when you're older. And I think what's happening is they're seeing the market right now thinking, but what's the point? If sure, it's worth more now, but you've got smaller places that are worth even more than what you've got because of the current situation. So with that in mind, I'm wondering, do you think this is going to be cyclical or cyclical, to however you like to say it, in that the prices will at least flatten out, but might even drop? We might actually have a situation where houses drop in value, can come to a more reasonable level.
It's possible. I personally believe things are overinflated right now when it comes to real estate valuations. But again, it's a result of supply and demand. On the other end is interest rates are up and home prices, valuations.
Yeah.
They haven't seemed to gone down. And I think a lot of people anticipated that would happen with, a 30-year mortgage rate basically doubling over the course of 2 years. I don't know, properties in my value or in my neighborhood where I live just over the border in Pennsylvania, in Westchester. They're still going for more than what they were a year or 2 years ago, a lot more. So we haven't seen a change there. Real estate isn't my expertise, but certainly keep an eye on things because it's a reflection of what all of our clients are spending kind of the majority of their disposable income on. So we could try to stay in tune to how they can leverage values inside the properties that they own. I think it likely will be cyclical, but only time's going to be the true judge on that one.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's what we've seen in the past, but we've never seen anything quite like this before. If you just tuned in, it's Dan Simon, Dan White & Associates, financial planners specializing in retirement income. Meanwhile, you guys obviously are becoming even more beloved and trusted by folks in Delaware because you've got the grand opening of a Lewis office. Tell us about that.
Yes, so we have opened our third office in Lewis, and happy to be establishing a presence down in I guess call it the beach communities. So the office opened up there first quarter of this year. Staffed up, holding a lot of different seminars, programs, and we're happy to be having a ribbon cutting and grand opening ceremony on Thursday, June 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. So it should be fun. We got a bunch of local food trucks coming in, some raffle prizes, giveaways. Just a great opportunity to meet some local residents. Other business owners are certainly welcome to attend, and they can just reach out to the office here and register. But it should be a great event.
So Lou, Jennifer, and Don, I know those are 3 listeners that live in Lewis. You guys got free hot dogs coming your way, or whatever.
I'm sure we'll have more than hot dogs. That's for sure.
I'm just kidding. I know you got the food trucks and all. Grand opening. Congratulations. Thursday, June 13th from 4 to 6. And then on Sundays at 7 a.m., Dan himself gives you a tip. It's on the money. Do we have any idea what he's going to talk about on Sunday? Or have you guys been busy with other stuff?
We've been pretty busy with other stuff, so I'm sure, as always, it will be a great show, but I don't know the topic off the top of my head.
Well, it'll be contemporary. We know it's going to be about, how do we make our way through this financial morass that we're engaged in right now in the country, and hopefully we'll get through this sooner rather than later. 888-69, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it is a weird time because, the majority of the broad indexes markets are, hitting all-time highs, it seems like, weekly, and there's still this sense of uncertainty and discomfort amongst people that I talk to. It's odd. It really is.
Well, I mean, the stock market is not the economy. It's sometimes a barometer of what's happening in this country. But then again, it all depends, where are you invested? I mean, are you invested in growth AI stocks, and which ones of those are going to do really well? NVIDIA was a big surprise to a lot of people. Are you invested in utilities? Some are doing great, some are not. I mean, it's not like all ships are rising in this tide. I really don't understand what's going on in some ways.
Yeah, big tech's carrying the majority of the indexes at this point. It really is.
There you go. All right, Dan Simon, 888-690-8820. Give him a call. Doesn't charge anything to go over your situation. 888-690-8820. Dan Simon, Middletown office of Dan White & Associates. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rick. Hopefully we see you down in Lewis on the 13th.
Well, hopefully. Maybe I can make it down there. Just do a quick jaunt down there and come on up. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm always good for a good food truck.